Hilchos Tefillin, Perek Revi'i. The fourth chapter of the laws of Tefillin. It's actually the final chapter on Tefillin. Tomorrow we start Mezuzah, but it's all considered part of the same section, Hilchot Tefillin, Mezuzah, V'Sefer Torah. So, till now, we learned about the making of the Tefillin themselves, writing them, the boxes. Today, it's all about how we do the mitzvah, how we put them on, and where and when we should wear them. It says that Rambam Halacha Aleph, Hechan manichin tefillin shel rosh. Where do we put the tefillin of the head? Manichin otan al hakodkod. You put them on the skull. Shehu sof hase'ar shekeneged hapanim. At the end of the hair, that's opposite the face, at the end of the hairline. Vehu hamakom, which is the place shemocho shel tinok rofes bo, where you can feel the brain of a child that it's a little soft, it's a little underdeveloped, right? So it's actually that place is a little bit further up. That's why some, it's more in. It's not over here. No. So some texts want to change in the Rambam not v'hu hamakom but ad hamakom, from the edge of the hairline until the place where the brain of a child is a little bit, it pulsates. You can see it over here. There's a picture. So the edge is on the hairline, and then it goes all the way up to here. This area is where you put on the head tefillin. You must align them in the middle. This should be between your eyes. Torah says, has to be directly aligned between your eyes. And on the back, it also has to be in the middle. The knot should be at the top of the neck, the nape of the neck, which is the end of the skull. Over here. You can feel it in the back. If you put your hand down, you can feel where there's like the bump and the skull ends. That's where the knot should be of the tefillin. And basically, it's exactly equal. If your tefillin are in front, in the middle, it's going to end up being that the knot's going to be on the right place in the back. That's for the head. B'shel yad halacha bet, and the hand tefillin kosherota al smolo. You tie it on your left hand, al hakiboret, on the bicep. V'hu abasar atofeach sheba marpek. That's the flesh that's popping out on the arm, ben perek hakatef or ben perek hazroa, between what's called the shoulder and what's called the arm. So if you kind of divide this part, your upper arm, into three, this would be the shoulder. Here's the bicep, and then here's like already considered the arm. So if you make a muscle, you can feel where the flesh pops out. That's where the tefillin of the hand have to lie. Shenimtza, and the reason we put it over there is because it turns out keshehu medabek marpekol itzla'av. If you would stick your arm next to your ribs, tiyet tefillah keneged libo. The hand tefillin will go directly opposite the heart, v'nimtza mekayem, and you will turn out to have fulfilled the verse which says v'hayu advarim ha'ele al levavecha. These things should be on your heart. You don't put tefillin on the heart. We're going to put it on the hand, and it's going to be opposite the heart. And you can see it over here. He also has a picture. That's where the box is getting wrapped on the kiboret, and then it goes all the way down as we do in different customs. Halacha gimel haminiach tefillah shel yad al pas yado. If you put the hand tefillin on the palm of your hand, or shel rosh al mitzcho, or you put your head tefillin literally on the forehead, harei zeh derech tzdukim. That's the way of the Sadducees. They used to learn Torah shebiktav, written Torah, literally, with no explanation. So they said, it says ukshartam laot al yadecha. You put it on your hand. This is my hand. It's going to be right over here between my eyes. They didn't have the Kabbalah.
Like the Indian.
Kind of. So if you follow,
by the way, the Karaim is
same thing. Karaim Tzedukim, that's the same. It's another name. So if you follow this way, then you're basically denying the oral Torah. So you're like a Tzeduki, like a Sadducees. How said tfilato agula ke'egos. If you make your tefillin round, like a walnut, ein ba mitzvah klal. There's no mitzvah because it has to be square. It's one of the halachah l'Moshe Sinai. The Talmud says it's called it's dangerous because when you have something round on top of your head, if you bump into something, it can penetrate much deeper. Like it can bang your skull in. If it's just square and flat, even if you bang against something, it'll just it'll bend in, but it won't point in. Yeah, so it could actually be dangerous. Iter means a lefty. Meniach tefillin biyamino. He puts tefillin on the right hand. Shehu small shalo, because it's his left. It's his weaker hand. Rabbi Weiss is a lefty. My brother's a lefty. A couple of lefties we know. Yeah.
I think 1 out of 10 people are left.
All right, so it's pretty common right there. 1 out of 10. Yeah, exactly. You come to the morning prayer, you know exactly who's right, who's lefty, because You look at the tefillin. V'im haya sholet b'shtei yadav. What if you're ambidextrous? You ruled both hands. You can do both things equally. Maniach ota bismolo. You put it on your left hand. The Rambam rules you put only tefillin on one hand, on the left hand. Shu small kol adam, which is the left hand of all people as well. Other authorities argue. Some Tzedek used to say that if you're ambidextrous, you should put on tefillin on your left hand during davening, and then afterwards put it again on your right hand. Yeah. And there's other opinions about it. Also, how do you determine what's called ambidextrous? The halachic ruling is that it goes by writing. So let's say you do everything with your right hand, but you write with your left hand. According to many authorities, you're considered a lefty for tefillin, and you have to put on tefillin on your right hand. Or if you do everything with both hands, but you only write with your right hand, you're not called ambidextrous. You only put on tefillin on your left hand. So b'shtei adav means you have to actually do everything with both hands. But anyway, the Rambam rules that it's only on one hand. He says you only put on left hand, that's it. Umekom kshirat ha-tefillin, umekom hanachatan. The place of tying the tefillin and the place where we put them on, which refers to the hand and the head, mipi hashmuah lemadum. It's all come from tradition. We know it from Moshe Sinai, exactly where to put it, exactly how to explain yadecha, beinenecha, your hand means over here, your eyes means over here. It's a line between your eyes, but not literally between your eyes. It's all from Moshe Sinai. Halacha dalet. Tfilah shel rosh eina me'akevet shel yad. Oh, this is a very important halacha. The head tefillin doesn't stop the hand tefillin. The shel yad eina me'akevet shel rosh, and the hand doesn't stop the head. If you only had an ability to put on one of them, you put on one of them. Mipnei she'en shtei mitzvot. There are two separate mitzvahs. Zula atzma, v'zula atzma. This one on its own, and that one on its own. Torah says, ukshartam la'ot al yadecha, v'utatafot b'neinecha. It doesn't say v'samtem tefillin. You put on tefillin. It says in two different verses. Put it on your hand, put it on your head. Each one is on its own account. And therefore, let's say you don't have an arm. Person's arms, both arms, he has no arms. You still put on the head tefillin. If a person is traveling and he only has a hand tefillin, he gave his head tefillin to check and he only has the hand. You're in Oklahoma, there's nowhere to...
He doesn't have hand, how are you going to put a head? He doesn't have hand.
Someone else will put a hand for him. No, you know that there was
I've heard that exists.
no, there was a story where, at least they say it, that bar mitzvah boys used to come to the Rebbe before their bar mitzvah to be tested, for a private audience. The Rebbe would ask them tefillin questions, and there was one boy who, he went in and the Rebbe asked him, if you don't have a hand, what do you do? He said, you put on tefillin on the head. So what should you do if you don't have a head? And the kid was stumped, like, exactly, it's like Kaddish. Huh? Oh, my father heard it from the Rebbe by that what? The Rebbe asked somebody. You get lost in like in the halacha. Right. So he started thinking, if he doesn't have a head, which hand should he put on tefillin on? Exactly. Meanwhile, it's just you're missing the head. Like you say, you say Kaddish. You don't have to say any other blessings.
You can make it figurative. Sometimes you don't have your head.
Yeah, if you lost your head, that's another story.
Why should you put it on then?
What if you don't have your head to fill it? That's...
Yeah, so literally, if you're in the middle of Idaho and you have no head to fill in, you only brought your hand to fill in, a separate mitzvahs. Separate mitzvah, exactly.
You get some bad looks. Oh no, actually probably.
There is one opinion that holds that they're one mitzvah. The Bahag, the Halachot Dalot, he said it's one mitzvah, and if you don't have one, you can't do the other. But the Rambam holds, and that's the halacha, there are two mitzvahs. The Ketzad Mevarchin, how do we make a blessing? Says the Rambam, al shel rosh mevarech, on the head tefillin, you make a blessing, asher kishanu mitzvotav etzivanu, al mitzvat tefillin. Hashem commanded us with his mitzvahs, and he gave us the commandment on the mitzvah of tefillin. Al shel yad mevarech, and on the hand you make a blessing, asher kishanu mitzvat etzivanu, lehaniach tefillin. Hashem commanded us to put on tefillin. Because the mitzvah on the hand is to actually put it on, it's the tying. The mitzvah on the head is just to be there. So he calls it just the mitzvah of tefillin. Now, many of us only make one blessing on the tefillin. We don't make two. Right? It says the Rambam halacha, hey, when do I say that there are separate blessings? If you only put on one of the tefillin, then you make each one for its blessing. If you have both tefillin, like we typically do, you put on the hand and the head. What you do is mevarech bracha achat. You only make one blessing, v'hi lahaniach tefillin, which is lahaniach tefillin. Then v'kosher shel yad, v'achar kach maniach shel rosh. Right away, you tie the hand tefillin and you put on the head tefillin, and that's it. Some communities they do two brachot. Some Ashkenazi communities, right? They do, no matter what, you make both blessings. But according to the Sfaradim, we make one blessing, except if you talk in between. If you made an interruption between the hand and the head, then you make another blessing on the head tefillin.
I know there's a custom when you make the two blessings, you actually say like Baruch Shem Kol.
Yes, that's right.
Just in case.
Just in case it's not a good blessing, they say Baruch Shem afterwards. That's true. Ukeshehu choletz, when you remove the tefillin after you're done, choletz shel rosh v'achar kach choletz shel yad. You first take off the head tefillin and then you take off the hand tefillin. Why? Because in the Torah it says v'hayu l'totafot b'neinecha. They should be as a sign between your eyes. Talmud says kol zman shebeneinecha yiyu shtayim. So long as you have tefillin on your head, there should always be two on. So you take off the head one first and then you take off the arm. Halacha vav, mi sheberach lahaniach tefillin v'kashar tefillin shel yad. Somebody who made a blessing of laniach tefillin and he begins to tie his hand tefillin on the hand. Asur lo lesaper, you can no longer talk. Va'afilu lahashiv shalom lerabot, even to answer good morning or how are you to your teacher. Ad she'aniach shalosh, till you put on the head tefillin. V'im sach, if you did talk, harei zu avera. It's an avera. V'tzarich levarech bracha shniya al mitzvat tefillin, and you have to make a blessing, a second blessing of al mitzvat tefillin v'achar kach maniach shalosh, and then you put on the head tefillin. The Talmud says this was such a strict avera that you know how when Jews went to war, anybody who had an avera in his hand would go back from the war. This is an example. Even somebody who talked between tefillin might have been a reason for him to go back home and not fight in the war. The army had to be fully tzaddikim back in the day. Halacha zayin tefillin kol zman shemenichan mevarech aleihem. Every time you put them on, you make a blessing. Okay, today we only know of putting on tefillin during davening, so it's more uncommon. But in the olden times, they used to wear tefillin all day, except when they went to the bathroom or went to eat. So every time you put them on during the day, you make a new blessing. Vafilu choletz v'lovesh kama pamim bayom. Even if you take them off and put them back on many times a day. V'chol mitzvot kulan mevarech aleihem kodem la'asiyatan. We have a general rule. Every mitzvah that you do, you make the blessing before you do it. Lefichach, therefore, tzarich levarech ala tefillah shel yad. You have to make the blessing on the hand tefillin achar hanacha al hakiboret kodem kshiratan. After you put it on the bicep, but before you tie it. Shekshiratan zuhi asiyatan. Because the tying is the doing. The actual mitzvah of the hand tefillin is the tying. Therefore, you don't say the blessing while you're holding it in your hand, and then you put it out. No, you first put it in place, and then when you're about to tie it, then you say the blessing. By the way, that's why some Chabad people have the custom that they loosen the knot. So you actually tie it every day. So you're really doing a kshira. You're actually tying the knot every single day when you make a blessing. But others just tying it down to your hand is considered the tying. Halacha chet. Kishecholetz adam tfilav lahatzniyan bikli. When you take off your tefillin to put them into a vessel or the utensil where they're held. Today we have bags. There was a kid the other day, he had like a little container. A flask. It matches this halacha right here. He says, Lo yaniach, Oh, it's up there. Yeah, there it is. Yeah. Lo yaniach shel yad milamata v'shel rosh milamala. You should not put the hand tefillin down low and the head tefillin on top. Even though the head tefillin is more holy. But you don't do that. Because what's going to happen the next day? Because the next time you're going to want to wear them, you're going to meet the head tefillin first, and you're going to have to put it aside and then take out the hand tefillin, because you can't put on the head tefillin before the hand, and that's a problem. It's forbidden for a person to put aside a mitzvah and then go to another mitzvah. The mitzvah which comes to the person's hand first, bahu mitasek. You have to do it first. But here you're going to be forced to put aside a mitzvah. So therefore, do it the other way. Therefore, tzarich lahaniach shel yad lemala. You put the hand tefillin up higher. So you should meet the hand tefillin first and wear it in order. The Alter Rebbe and the Mishnah Berurah, they both write that nevertheless, this way will also be bad because you're putting the head tefillin lower. So what you should get for your tefillin is a bag that's wide enough to hold them both, which is what we have today. We all have these bags of tefillin. They go in side by side instead of one on top of the other. And by the way, for the same reason, if you have a talis in your bag, you have to put the talis closer to you than your tefillin, because the talis goes on first, so you don't put it aside. It's the same principle. Whatever's going to come to you first the next day, put it first access. Halacha tet. Kli shehechino lahaniach bo tefillin v'hinicham bo. If you have a vessel or a bag or something that you designated to put the tefillin there, that's where I'm going to store my tefillin, and you did. You actually stored them there once, nit kadesh. That vessel becomes holy, that bag becomes holy. V'asur li'ishtamesh bo b'divrei chol, and you literally cannot use it for anything mundane. Hechino v'lo hiniach bo, if you designated it but you never actually used it. Or shehiniach bo arai v'lo hechino, or you just happened to use it once, but you never actually designated it, you put it in your suitcase, let's say, but you never meant to make your suitcase into your tefillin container. Lo nit kadesh. It didn't become holy, and it's weekday as it is. By the way, the commentaries say if you had in mind that you're going to use it for more things, then it's okay. Many people today, you see they have a talis bag, but they also put books in there, and they put brochures, and they put other things in there. It becomes a whole collection box.
Even if it says
Or money.
the word tefillin?
Yes. If you had in mind that you're going to use it for other things, then it's fine. If not, then as soon as you designate it, nothing else can go inside.
Like while you're davening, you take your tefillin out. You can't put your stuff.
Yeah, you can't put your iPhone in there or candies, unless you had in mind. If you have in mind, then it's easy. You just say, I'm going to use it for whatever I need to use it for. The asur litlot et tefillin. You can never hang tefillin. Bein baritzua, bein batfila atzma. Not by the straps, not by the box. Aval tolehu et hakis, shat tefillin munachin bo. But you can hang the bag, which tefillin are inside. You could put it on a hook. What about we see some people in the morning, they put on tefillin, and as they put on the head tefillin, they let it hang. They hold it by the knot and they kind of put it over their head. That's not ideal. The Alter Rebbe says it's not ideal, but it's okay. It's not called hanging tefillin. Ideally, you should hold it, the knot in your right hand and the box in your left hand, and you just position it over your head, and that's it, you put it on. Halacha Yud. Zman hanachat tefillin bayom velo balayla. The time for putting on tefillin is only by day, not by night. Shene'emar, as it says, miyamim yamima. The beginning of the verse says, V'shamarta tachuka hazot. You guard this law, miyamim yamima, from day to day. Chuka zu hi mitzvah tefillin. This chuka that the Torah is referring to means the mitzvah of tefillin, and it says you only do it by day. V'chein Shabbatot v'yamim tovim einan zman tefillin. Also, Shabbos and holidays are not a time for tefillin. Shene'emar, as it says, v'haya le'ot. The tefillin have to be a sign. V'shabbatot v'yamim tovim hein atzmanot. Shabbos and holidays are already a sign. We don't need two signs. So if we're on a holiday and it's a sign, we don't put on tefillin. What about Chol HaMoed? Chol HaMoed, the people used to put on tefillin on Chol HaMoed. But then the Zohar, when it was discovered, the Zohar writes clearly that you should not put on tefillin on Chol HaMoed. So most communities adopted the custom of not putting on tefillin. Some Ashkenazim, they do, because the Rambam writes in Shulchan Aruch that you should put on tefillin on Chol HaMoed with a blessing. But today, even those that put on, they don't make a blessing. But the Sfaradim, for sure, Bet Yosef says for sure, Asur lahaniach tefillin, it's forbidden to put on tefillin on Chol HaMoed, and it's because it's based on Kabbalah. So we don't do that. From when is the time, the earliest time you can put on tefillin in the morning? If you would see your friend at a distance of 4 amot, 6 feet, and you would recognize him, even if it's before sunrise, you can put on tefillin then. It's called Misha Yakir, from the time that you can recognize people. It's the earliest time to put on tefillin, ad shetishka hachama, until sunset.
Till then?
Yeah. If you're wearing them, though, during the day, you can actually keep them on till the stars come out, even after sunset. But you can't put them on, technically, after sunset. You could without a blessing, some say, but bottom line is, try to keep it in between sunrise and sunset, okay?
Okay, that's okay on that level.
Exactly. Halacha Yud Aleph. Misha iniach tefillin kodem shetishka hachama v'chashcha alav. Person puts on tefillin before sunset, and it gets dark. Afilu hin alav kol halayla mutar. Technically, even if they stay on you all night, it's permitted. However, ve'en morin davar ze l'rabim, we don't teach this to the public. Ela milamdin et hakol, we teach everybody shelo yanichu tefillin alehen balayla. They should never leave tefillin on them by night. Ela yechaltzu otan mishetishka hachama. They should always take them off after sunset. You don't want to have tefillin on by night. You might fall asleep in them. It's no good. You can't divert your attention from tefillin. So you might pass gas. It's no good. If you put on tefillin initially, after sunset, over belav, you actually transgress a negative commandment. Shene'emar, as it says, v'shamarta tachuka hazot v'gomer miyamim yamima. You only guard this tefillin by day, not after sunset. Halacha Yud Bet, hayaba baderech u'tefillin b'rosho. What happens if you're traveling? You're walking on the road, tefillin are on your head, v'shak'a alav hachama v'kadash hayom. And the sun set, but not just on a Tuesday. It was a Friday, and now it's Shabbat. Shabbos comes in, you're stuck with tefillin. What do you do? Maniach yado alehen ad shu mageh lebeito v'choletz. You just put your hands over them till you reach your house and take them off right away. That's if you're traveling. Haya yoshev bevet hamidrash utfilin b'rosho. What if you're sitting in the study hall, tefillin on your head, like people used to do, study all day with tefillin. V'kadash alav hayom, and it became Shabbat on you. Maniach yado alehen, same thing. You just keep your hands on them ad shu mageh lebeito v'choletz till you leave your house, till you get to your house and you take them off. This is somewhat of a bigger novelty because over here you were in a shul. Just take them off and leave them there. No, to protect tefillin, since most study halls used to be outside the city, people were worried about thievery, so you can actually leave the Beit Midrash with your tefillin on, take them home, and then take them off over there. shemishtamrim bo. But if there's a house or a little storage place near the wall of the city where they would anyways be guarded, manichan sham, you must leave them there. You can't take them into the city. As soon as you have a place to put them where you can store them good, you leave them there. In any case, even during the weekday, if you didn't take off your tefillin after sunset because you had no place to store them, and they're on you because you want to guard them, mutar, that it's permitted because you're protecting them. And it's not about wearing tefillin at night, it's just about taking care of the tefillin, which is allowed. Halacha Yud Gimel. Kol patur mikriyat shema, patur mitfillin. Anybody who is exempt from the obligation of saying Shema is also exempt from saying tefillin. Right? Like we had women, some slaves, people who were involved in another mitzvah. You're at a funeral, something like that. Then you're exempt from tefillin. Katan sheyodeh lishmor tfilav. Technically, by dry halacha, if you have a child who knows how to guard tefillin, keep his body regulated, and he treats them with respect, aviv lokeach lo tefillin kidei lechancho b'mitzvot. Technically, his father can buy him, should buy him tefillin to educate him on mitzvahs. Today we don't do that. Today, in some communities, very rarely they go from 9 years old, some Yemenite communities, but in most communities today, the custom is that about 2 months before the bar mitzvah is when a child begins to put on tefillin. It's like practice, and then by the bar mitzvah he starts to do it as an bar mitzvah, as an obligation. Cholei me'ayim, somebody who has a stomachache. V'chol mi shelo yachol lishmor et nekavav ela b'tzar, and anybody else who cannot guard his bowels unless he puts in a great effort, can't control himself, just go to the bathroom, diarrhea is coming, whatever it is. Patur minat tefillin, he's exempt from tefillin because tefillin require a clean body. B'cholat meim kulam, anybody who's ritually impure, chayavin bat tefillin katorim, doesn't matter, you're obligated to put on tefillin like anybody who's pure. Mitzta'er, somebody who is in pain. Umi she'ein da'ato miyoshevet alav, miyoshevet u'nechona alav, somebody whose mind is not calm, he's a bit disturbed, he's anxious about something. Patur minat tefillin, he's exempt from tefillin too. Shameniach tefillin, because somebody who wears tefillin, asur lo lehasiach da'ato me'en, you cannot remove your mind from it. So if you're going to be anxious and disturbed, you're going to be taking your mind off of it, you'll be distracted. It's no good. Kohanim b'shat ha'avodah. What about kohanim? In the temple, while they're working. V'haleviyim b'sha'ah she'omrim shir al duchan. And the Leviyim, when they would say song on the platform in the Bet HaMikdash, v'Yisrael b'sha'ah she'omdim b'mikdash. And any Jews, when they were in the temple doing whatever they were doing, p'turin minat tefillah minat tefillin. They're exempt from prayer and from tefillin. It's fascinating because it seems like here there was prayer in the temple, right? Even though we say that the prayers are for the sacrifices, which stopped with the temple, but it seems like at some point people were obligated in some form of prayer during the Bet HaMikdash. Halacha Yudalid chayav adam lemashmesh bitfilav kol zman shehem alav. As long as the tefillin are on you, you have an obligation to touch them, just to remind yourself that they're still on you. So you don't divert your attention even for a moment. Their holiness is greater than the holiness of the tzitz, of the band that the Kohen Gadol used to wear. The tzitz only had one name of Hashem. It said Kodesh La Hashem, one of Hashem's name. The Elu, in these tefillin, yesh b'hem echad ve'esrim shem, shel yud hei b'shel rosh, ukumotan b'shel yad. 21 times it says Hashem's name in the head tefillin, and 21 times in the hand tefillin. So it's 42 names of Hashem. Today, even though we only wear tefillin for like an hour during davening, but we also touch them throughout davening. When we say the tefillin verses in Shema, we touch them to remind ourselves that we're wearing them. Halachat tvav tefillin tzrichin guf naki. Tefillin require a clean body. She is a hair. You have to be careful. Shalot tetzeh mimenu ruach milamata. That no air comes out from below, no gas passes. Kol zman shehem alav, as long as they're on you. Lefichach, therefore, asur lishon bahem. You cannot sleep in your tefillin. Lo shnat keva v'lo shnat arai. Not a permanent sleep, going to bed, and not even a nap. Ela im hiniach alehen sudar. Only if he covered them with a cloth. V'lo hayata imo isha, and there was no woman in bed with you. Yashen bahem shnat arai. Then you can sleep with them, but only a nap. The ketzadu oseh, how do you nap? Maniach rosho ben birkav hu yoshev v'yashen. It means sleeping while you're sitting. You put your head between your knees, sitting and sleeping. Otherwise, once you're going to lay down, tefillin have to be off you. Halachat zayin hayu tfilav kruchin biyado. If tefillin were wrapped in your hand, you're not wearing them, you're just holding them. Mutar lishon bahem afilu shnat keva. You can sleep with them even if it's a long sleep, a permanent sleep. Ve'eno ochel bahem. You cannot eat with your tefillin ela achilat arai, only a snack. Aval im nichnas li sudat keva, but if you're going in to have a proper meal, choltzan, you first take off your tefillin. Umanichan al shulchano, you leave them on your table so you remember them. Ad sheyitol yadav, till you wash your hands. The commentaries say washing your hands, this means mayim acharonim, at the end of the meal. You wash your hands before Birkat HaMazon, v'achar kach yenichem, then you put them back on, v'yivarech al mizono v'hu lavush ba, and you make the Birkat HaMazon while you're still wearing them. Halacha Yud Zayin, haya lavush tefillin, v'hu tzrach lebeit hakisei. If you're wearing tefillin and you need the bathroom, again, not so common today, we wear them during only davening, but if you're wearing them all day, it happens. You need to go to the bathroom. What do you do with your tefillin? And especially in those days, that bathrooms used to be kind of away from the regular places. It was you had to go to an outhouse or away from the common roads. Lo yaniach hatfilin bachorin hasmuchin l'rshut harabim v'yikanes. You should never leave your tefillin in a hole in a wall near to the public property and then go into the bathroom. Shema yitlum of red drachim. Perhaps people traveling will take them, and it could lead to very bad stuff. The Talmud says there was once a student in the yeshiva who went to the bathroom, put his tefillin on the side of the wall, and a woman who was a well-known prostitute in the city took his tefillin, and the next day she came to shul and she said, "Look what I got as payment yesterday from this guy." And she accused him, and he died of shame. He went to the roof and he slept it, he fell off, and it was a very bad story. So you don't leave your tefillin in a hole where people can take them. Ketzad yaseh, what should you do? You're got to go to the bathroom and nobody's there. Who's going to guard your tefillin? Afilu hutzrach lahashtin mayim. Even if you have to go just to urinate. Choletz tfilav berichuk arba amot. Take your tefillin off 4 amot, 6 feet about, away from the bathroom. V'golelan bebigdo kimin sefer Torah. And roll them up into your cloak. They used to have long robes. So roll it up into your robes, like a sefer Torah, like just wrapping it up. V'ochazan biyimino keneged libo. Keep them with your right hand in the area of your heart. V'yizaher, and be very careful, that no strap should be sticking out 1 tefach, about 4 inches, out of the cloak. V'nichnas, you go in, osetz rachav, you do your needs. When you go out, marchik arba amot mibet hakisei v'lovshan, you go 6 feet away and you put them back on. So you're allowed to take tefillin into a bathroom if it's to protect them. If there's nowhere else, of course, if there's someone else to protect them, then you leave them outside.
They have to be covered.
But they have to be covered, yeah. Halacha yudchet b'med dvarim amurim. When are we talking about here? Bebet hakisei hakavua, in a permanent outhouse. It was a permanent bathroom. She'en nitzotzot nitazot alav, where there's no issue of what he calls them sparks, but it means droplets of the urine sprinkling back on your body. Aval bet hakisei arai, but if you're in a temporary outhouse which is not set up to be a bathroom, so there's risk of droplets coming back onto your clothing. Lo yikanes bahen kishem glulim. You cannot go into the bathroom with them when they're rolled up in your cloak. Ela choletzotan v'notanam lachaveiro l'shamran. You must take them off and give them to somebody else to guard them. Because exactly. Ve'en meraglahim kalin afilu bet kisei kavua ela b'yeshiva. There's a general rule that the urine will only fully leave your body with no droplets, even in a permanent outhouse, if you're sitting or squatting. If it was moist earth, then even if you're standing, you don't have to worry about droplets bouncing back. If you're in a place with tough earth, stand on an angle, on an incline, so no droplets come back at you. Again, today we have a toilet. It's very different. There's no issues so much about this, but we still don't take tefillin into a bathroom. We just leave them outside. Today it's even easier because you're usually in a house. You just put them in a room. You don't have to go anywhere. If you're wearing tefillin, and you need the bathroom, but it's coming evening, sun's going to set. There's not enough time in the day. By the time you come out, it's already going to be sunset. There will be no time to put them on again. So now it's another reason. You should not go into the bathroom with them in your cloak. Even to urinate in a permanent outhouse, there's no problem. You don't take them in because you can't put them back on afterwards. What should you do? Store them. Put them away for the day. Take them off and put them in their usual container. If there was a tefach of airspace in the container. Or in a container which is not their usual container. Even if there is no tefach of airspace. We're going to learn later. There's a principle which says that a tefach, 4 inches of airspace, is considered to be chatzitza, a good interruption. So if you have a container for tefillin, which is the usual container, the container itself isn't considered an interruption because it's the usual container. It's an extension of the tefillin. But if there's a tefach of airspace in that container, then it separates the tefillin from the outside. That's good. If it's not the usual container, then the container itself becomes the interruption. Even if there is no tefach, then you can use it as a storage
What
container.
about those? Like,
Become holy?
No, because you only used it for one time. Huh?
what about those? Like a leather bag? Is that? Like,
That's a regular container. That's called the usual container for tefillin. So it has to have a tefach of extra space after the tefillin to take it into the bathroom.
So, like, what do you mean? Like, so that worst case, that one, no matter what, you can never take it.
Yes. Unless it's but you put it in another bag, then it's fine.
You
Put the container in another bag, yes.
Then you can. Yeah.
You hold the container in your hand, then you go inside. Same thing if you needed the bathroom. At night, you put the tefillin in the container, and you hold the container in your hand and you go in. Not because you're wearing them by night, but just let's say you have them. You're traveling at night, you have your tefillin with you, you can take them in if they're in another container. Halacha chaf. Shachach, what if you forgot? You're wearing tefillin all day, you forgot, v'nichnas lebet hakisei v'lavush tefillin, you go into the bathroom while you're wearing tefillin. Maniach yado alehen ad sheyigmor amud rishon. You must leave them on. But you put your hands on them, you cover them till you finish the first release. V'yotzei v'choletz, then you stop and you leave, take the tefillin off, achar kach nichnas v'osetz rachav, and then go back and do whatever you have to do. You can't stop in the middle of the first release. She'im yafsik ba'amud rishon. If you ever stop while using the bathroom in the first release, ben bigdolim, ben bigtanim, whether it's for excrement, defecating, whether it's for urinating, yavol yedei chalaim shesh batzakana gdola. It can make you very sick with very dangerous results. So even if you're wearing the tefillin, just cover them out of respect, but finish what you have to do in the beginning. Halacha chaf aleph shachach v'shimesh mitato b'tefillin. Let's say you forgot and you engaged in marital relations while you're wearing tefillin. You cannot touch, you cannot hold on to the strap or the box until you wash your hands and then take them off. I'm not sure how this happens. Because the hands are busy, we don't know what the hands touched, so you don't touch your tefillin while you're engaging in relations. After you're done, take them off. Okay. Halacha chaf bet. Hanichnas lebet hamerchatz. If you go into a bath house, not a bathroom, so the bath houses used to have 3 rooms. The waiting room, where everybody was dressed, the dressing room, where some were dressed, some were naked, and the actual bathing room, where everybody was naked. Says the Rambam, Makom shebnei adam omdin levushin, in the first room, the waiting room, where everybody used to be dressed, mutar la'aniach tefillin. You could even put on tefillin. Umakom shebnei adam omdin sham, miktzatan arumim, umiktzatan levushin. In the second room, the dressing room, people stand there, some naked, some dressed. Eino choletz tfilav. You don't have to remove your tefillin. Ve'eino meniach sham tefillin lechatchila, but you cannot put them on initially. But in the room where everybody is naked, in the actual bathing room, choletz tfilav, you must take off your tefillin. Ve'en tzarich lomar she'eino maniach. Needless to say, you don't put on tefillin. Halacha chaf gimel lo yehalech adam bebet hakvarot utfillin berosho. You should not go in a cemetery with tefillin on your head. It's lo'eg larash. You're making fun of the dead who cannot do the mitzvahs. Va'afilu betoch arba amot shel met. Even if you're within 4 cubits, 6 feet of a dead body, even if it's not in a cemetery, just a dead corpse, or betoch arba amot shel kever, or within 4 amot of a grave, tzarich lechalotz tfilav, you must remove your tefillin ad sheyarchik arba amot, till you distance yourself 4 amot, about 6 feet from the dead body. V'lo yilbash adam tefillin, also a general rule, you should never wear tefillin ad sheyechaser vatov yilbash b'gadav, until your genitalia is covered and you're wearing clothing. So the commentators say there's 2 parts here. You can't just wear a cloak over yourself. You have to be wearing underwear, something that actively covers your nakedness. Hanoseh masoy al rosho. If a person is carrying a load on his head, choletz tfilav shel rosh ad sheyasira masoy me'alav. You cannot wear your tefillin of the head. You must take them off till you remove the load. Va'afilu mitpachat, even a cloth, asur lahaniach al harosh sheyesh bo tefillin. You cannot put on a head that has tefillin. Aval tzonefu mitznafto al tefillin. Only your hat. You could put a hat on your tefillin, or a yarmulke, or the Kohen Gadol used to wear his turban on top of the tefillin, or the king would wear his crown. A usual hat is fine, but not an additional cloth or additional load. Halacha chaf daled bayit sheyesh bo tefillin o sefer Torah. A house that has tefillin or a Torah scroll out in the open, asur l'shamesh bo mitato. You cannot engage in relations in that house, in that room technically, ad sheyotzi'em o yanichem b'kli, until you take them out, or you put them in a container, but not their container, a different container. V'yaniach hakli b'kli acher she'eino kilyan. You must put the regular container in another container, which isn't the usual container. A cabinet, another bag. But if the second container was also meant for them, so say you put your tefillin in the small tefillin bag, and then you slide that into the big talis bag. But they're both meant for tefillin, so they're not considered to be another covering. Even 10 containers are all considered like one container. You have to put it into unusual container. But once you put them container inside a container, mutar lahanichan even tachat mera shotav. You can even store them under your head, ben kar lekesed, between a cushion and a pillow, shelo keneged rosho, so long as it's not directly opposite your head, kedei l'shamran, in order to protect them, va'afilu ishto imo b'mita, even if your wife is with you, it's no problem because they're in two containers. And now the Rambam, as he many times does, concludes a set of halachot with a perspective, a halacha perspective. Halacha chafei, kedushat tefillin, kedushatan gdolahi. The holiness of tefillin is a great holiness. Shekol zman, shat tefillin b'rosho shel adam v'azro'o. So long as tefillin is on your head and on your arm, hu anav v'yireh shamayim. A person is humble and he fears heaven. The holiness of a tefillin actually causes that. It doesn't just help you be better. The holiness makes you humble, makes you fear of heaven. And you won't get drawn into laughter or just idle talk. You don't think bad thoughts. You would empty your mind to be only thinking about words of truth and righteousness. Therefore, a person should try to wear tefillin all day. Because that's the ideal mitzvah. The choicest way of doing it is to wear tefillin all day, and this way the tefillin will affect you all day. Amru alav al Rav. Talmido shel Rabbeinu HaKadosh. It said about Rav, who was the student of Rabbeinu HaKadosh, who made the Mishnah, Shekol yamav lo ra'uhu. They never saw him all his life. Shehalach arba amot b'lo Torah, or b'lo tzitzit, or b'lo tefillin. That he should walk 4 cubits. He should walk 6 feet without saying something of Torah, or wearing tzitzit, or wearing tefillin. He was always wearing or doing something that would remind him of Hashem. Halacha chavav afal pisha mitzvatan l'lavshan kol hayom. Even though the ideal mitzvah is to wear it all day, bishat tefillah yoter min hakol. During davening, it's more than anything else best to wear tefillin. Amru Chachamim said the sages, Kol hakorei kriyat shema b'lo tefillin. If you read shema without wearing tefillin, ki'ilu me'id edu sheker ba'atzmo. It's like saying false testimony. You're saying the verse about putting on tefillin, and you're not wearing tefillin. V'chol she'eino maneach tefillin. Anybody who doesn't put on tefillin, over b'shmona aseh. You transgress 8 mitzvot. Shari ba'arba parshiyot tziva tefillin shel rosh v'al tefillin shel yad. Because there's 4 portions. Each one has a commandment for the head tefillin and for the hand tefillin. So 2 times 4 is 8. On the other hand, v'chol haragil b'tefillin. If you're accustomed to wear tefillin every day, ma'arich yamim, you get a long life. Shenemar, as it says, Hashem alehem, because Hashem is on them. You wear Hashem's name. We saw yesterday the shin, the daled, the yud, and the knots has Hashem's name, and inside the tefillin is Hashem's name. Therefore, yichyu, therefore you will live a long life.